Welcome to Talking with Tech. I'm your host, Rachel Madel, joined as always by Chris Bugaj. Hey, Chris.
Hey there, Rachel. Well, so some exciting personal news to share with everybody on the podcast. My wife has been working on her doctorate for the last 3.5-ish years, and she just earned it. Dr. Bugaj walked across the stage at Virginia Commonwealth University and has a doctorate in educational leadership. So I just wanted to congratulate my wife, Melissa Bugaj, Dr. Melissa Bugaj, on her great accomplishment. It has been a long journey with a lot of writing and a lot of researching and a lot of learning too, but it is, anyone who's gotten one knows that it is not an easy thing to do, and I'm just super proud of her.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've witnessed that, Chris. Like I've seen Melissa on the couch next to you, working on papers and doing things. And so I am really excited, and shout out. Melissa is so hardworking and amazing and incredible. And now she has this amazing degree to share, which I feel like is so great. And it's really hard work. And I really admire people that take the extra step to get more formalized education in that way, because I oftentimes think wow, that'd be so nice, but I don't think I could ever do it. So I'm always very impressed by people who have doctorates and PhDs and things like that.
Yeah, she worked on a team of, she was one of 5. And so there's that whole team dynamic that has to come into play. And it's so interesting the way you said something. It really triggered a memory for me. So when we were celebrating getting her doctorate, the way it worked is we went to Richmond, Virginia, and there was a little 2-hour ceremony where they invite people everyone is getting their educational leadership doctorate, and they move across and they get 30 seconds to come up and say something. Like Melissa got up and was like, "I'd like to thank my family and my teammates," that kind of thing, right? Like an award speech, right? Well, this one guy gets up and he goes, "Yeah, I thank my wife. I thank all my supports." And then he kind of puts his hands together. Everyone cover your ears. Rubs his hands together and he leans into the microphone. He goes, "And now the real work begins. All this knowledge that we've learned, now we got to use it to help people." And I was started to cry. Melissa looked over. I'm like, "Yeah, dude, that's it." Right? That's what you're doing this for. Yes, it's a personal celebration, but then tomorrow you roll up those sleeves because you got to do something with that knowledge. And I was just so inspired by that. Later on in the reception, and you walk around and they have little hors d'oeuvres or whatever. And I ran right up to that guy and I was like, "Hey, I just need to shake your hands because that was amazing." And he was like, yeah, great. That's what it's all about. We got to help other people. And I was like, yeah. So it was just an awesome moment.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of now the real kind of work begins. And yeah, it's great that he kind of recognized that and shared that. So great. Wow. I'm so excited. Congratulations, Melissa.
Yeah, congratulations. Now, there is a second guy that I came up to in that reception. And when he got up in front, he said his thing. And at the end, he leaned into the mic, put hands on the podium, leaned into the mic, and he said, "San Dimas High School football rules." And I looked at my family. I was like, I get that reference. So I ran up to him afterwards and I was like, "Hey, dude, Wild Stallions is my favorite band." And he's like, "Oh, you got the reference." So anyone doesn't know, that's Bill and Ted's reference, and I got it. So I was really proud of myself.
Sounds like it was a lot of fun celebrating this weekend.
Yeah, it was. It was great. My son, he finished his freshman year and he left there, drove across the state of Virginia to get to Richmond and celebrate. So we were all together, and it was a great. Melissa's a great role model for our kids, that and for kids in general. That was a thing. It was also a theme, is that everyone brought their kids, and there was so many young kids there, looking down at them going, "See, you can do this one day too," So it was really inspiring weekend after a lot of hard work. And how Melissa, yes, it is time to get to work, but it is also, maybe she can read a book for fun,
Let's just take a break. Let's take a breather. Let's have some fun. Let's relax.
Yeah, exactly. It was so great. I came downstairs, turned around the corner, and she was sitting there. So Richmond, Virginia has the Edgar Allan Poe Museum, and Melissa's a big Edgar Allan Poe fan. And so we went there, and it's small, we were there for an hour, but she bought herself a book. I came downstairs and came around the corner, and I was expecting to see her there with the laptop typing, and there she was under the blankets with the book open, and I was like, yeah.
Things have changed. Things are changing for the better.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, and then just another thing that I don't think I ever celebrated about my wife, and that is last school year, she was named one of the Special Education Advisory Council Inclusive Administrator of the Year. She won that award, and I never did say it here on the podcast. So again, if this banter is about celebrating Dr. Bugaj, then I want to call that out too, is that she, on a day in, day out basis, really provides an inclusive experience for all the learners in her school, and then really really prides herself on building relationships with the families, and that really was nice to be celebrated. Other people saw that and nominated her, and then she won, and so that was also just a moment where, my heart swelled with pride.
I'm sure, especially given all the work that you do, Chris. I feel like that combination is really powerful and unique. And of course, on this podcast, we're all about inclusion and just all the things that help support all of our learners all the time. And so I love it.
Yeah, it's really great to take a moment and celebrate those wins that you see. So, okay, one last thing, and that is, sorry, this is all about celebrating my family right now, but my son Tucker wants to be a veterinarian. And when he's currently looking at small animals, but really he's keeping his door open for anything. And one of the things he did to build his resume, but also just because he loves animals, back when he was in high school, is he volunteered at some local stables where he was, the person raking the hay and cleaning up the stuff. And then he got a job working at a local vet clinic as well. I'm just saying he has some experience with horses, which I think leads us into our interview for today.
So I had the pleasure of interviewing Karina Carter and Nicole Young, and we talk all about AAC and equine therapy and horses. And it was such an amazing interview. They reached out to us, actually, shared how valuable the podcast has been, and share all about her. It's a speech therapist and a mom to a child of complex communication needs who uses AAC. Such a beautiful relationship that they developed. So we had both of them on the podcast, and literally, Chris, we did this interview in a stable. Like, we were in a barn and there was a horse in the background at one point who popped its head out. So it was just it was so great. And it's just really cool to hear what this clinic has done as far as supporting students and their learning of language through AAC on the backs of horses. So I'm really excited to share the interview I did with Nicole Young and Karina Carter.
If you enjoy Talking with Tech, we could use your help in spreading the word about the podcast. Please take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes. The more positive reviews the podcast gets, the easier it becomes for others to find it. The more people who find the podcast, the more the word spreads about how to effectively consider and implement AAC. And who doesn't want that? If that sounds good to you, please take a moment and give the podcast a quick review. We'd so very much appreciate it. Now, let's get back into the episode.
Welcome to Talking with Tech. I'm your host, Rachel Madel, joined today by Karina Carter and Nicole Young. I'm so excited to have you guys here.
Thanks for having us. Yes, thank you.
So first, can you guys just start off by introducing yourselves? Who are you? What do you do?
I'm Karina Carter. I'm a speech-language pathologist at the Children's TheraPlay Foundation in Indianapolis, Indiana. Well, technically Carmel, but in the Indianapolis area. And I have been here at Children's TheraPlay for going on 3 years this fall.
Amazing.
And I'm Nicole Young. I'm here as a parent, but professionally, I'm also a speech therapist. Pediatrics is not my area. I work with the elderly population, but my son is blessed to have Miss Karina as his speech therapist. So bridged his voice.
I love it. And I have to give our listeners some context here. Karina, you reached out to us via email saying that you're a listener of the podcast and you shared a lot of kind of your story and you talked about equine therapy, and you guys are actually sitting in a stable right now doing this interview. So for our listeners who aren't able to see what I'm seeing, I'm like hoping that like a horse comes out and says hello.
I hope so too. Right now, Bo behind us is eating his dinner. So we'll see if we can, I don't know, get him away from the food for a little bit.
It's getting lower. So hopefully.
Yeah. So here at Children's TheraPlay, we utilize the horse as a treatment tool. So we have many tools in our tool bag as therapists, and we are just so blessed here to be able to use the horse as well. So we, part of our sessions are clinical. So we are just within a regular pediatric outpatient clinic. And then half of our sessions, we come out to our arena where we have the child on the horse and I'm standing next to the horse and we have a sidewalker on the other side of the horse. And behind that horse is a handler and the handler guides the horse throughout the session. Mm-hmm. So we have, it's been a work in progress. So I started the program 3 years ago. They had OT and PT here for 20 years, but they got a new facility and had the space for speech therapy. So it's been a really fun ride of learning how to utilize communication devices and horses. And it's been so fun to see the kids be able to direct really large horses to go, to stop, to go fast, to trot. And so it's been really fun.
I think she's very modest, but I think she needs to explain more of the process because she has really opened the eyes of her team and the parents, because I'm here as a parent. And I will say, truly, everybody in the village of Children's TheraPlay as parents, like, this woman started this 3 years ago. So like it was a job that was posted for the development of speech therapy here. Mm-hmm. And when my son started with her in August 2022, it was a 4-month wait for her. It is now a 2-year wait for her. It's only a 3-year program and I'm going to make her blush, but there's more to the development of the speech. And I feel like she needs to explain more because listening to the podcast, like people are out there trying to break the ceiling to show that AAC can go further, as part of the child. It's not a device. Yeah. Like we see kids playing on iPads all the time. It is their voice and it's connected to them. And I'm sorry, I'm putting her on the spot. But
well, I love, Nicole, how you mentioned that the device it's sometimes I have a hard time saying device because it's a child's communication and it's part of them.
We call it the talker.
Yeah, we call it talker, we call it their voice. But yeah, it's been so neat to come into a team of OTs and PTs that they're like, oh yeah, we have speech therapy. This is awesome. And I think when people think speech therapy, they think verbal communication. And yeah, so many kiddos out there do use verbal communication, but so many of our wonderful, talented, amazing kids use like total communication or signs, verbal, device, or just our talker, or just a talker or just sign. And so it's been fun to educate team, educate family, the families within TheraPlay about the beauty and the wonder of helping kids communicate in whatever way they communicate. So yeah, at first we weren't even allowed to bring our devices out into the arena by the horses. They told me to keep the talkers in the mudroom and so then we had to educate, oh no, this is part of the child. The child, it has to come to the horse. And so then the barn team worked wonderfully with us. They were just so understanding. They're like, oh, okay, and like this is part of their communication. This is part of them. And so then we were able to get on the horse, but then we realized, wait a second, it keeps flopping everywhere. We can't trot, or I can't help model when they're on the horse because I'm holding on to the talker while holding on to the child, and the horse is moving. So then we worked with our beautiful volunteer staff. We have amazing volunteers here, and we were able to work together to create like a holder for the talker. So now the talker is on a holder, which we have here actually today.
Oh, wow.
Kind of like, for those that are listening, it's a foam platform that on the top of it is wood, but it's a little bit sturdy for the placement of the talker. But it has slip resistant topping. So it kind of holds it in place. And then the foam part can gently go around the horse's neck and mane. And then we have little hooks here that hook around the horse.
Yes.
So
amazing.
Yeah, so that's so it's been amazing to work with the volunteer team to put that together. And then with our OTs and PTs, they've really realized like, oh, this is communication. And now I see all the kids out with their talkers, and we've been able to, I feel like sometimes I'm Oprah, like you get a talker and you get a talker and you get a talker. Everybody gets a talker. So it's just so fun to see everybody just rally around it, and kids are thriving. Like Nicole's son is just thriving, and it's just been such a joy to experience. You have amazing sons.
Thank you. I think so.
We had a dance party the other day. It was great.
So, Nicole, I'm really excited to kind of hear your journey with your son. Can you share a little bit about what that has looked like? He, obviously is an AAC user, and we know that the road to AAC is not always easy, and it's sometimes twisting and turning. So can you share a little bit about what that experience has been?
We were led here by actually our babysitter. She actually saw a newspaper article in the Indianapolis Star, and it was around March, maybe 2022. And so we were blessed that when COVID hit, as a speech therapist, my job actually dealt with working with people post-COVID, and my building was actually a designated COVID site. So when people didn't need to have a hospital, they would come to us, but they still needed care. So my babysitter actually we were very fortunate that she said, go ahead and keep bringing your kids, we were getting COVID tested and everything. But then Thad fell through a hole, like we see most of our kids with ASD. He was 2, and all of a sudden that his delays weren't catching up. So we ended up doing first steps here in Indiana, which is the early intervention, where eventually they came out of Zooming. That was a headache for me. But they actually went to Lisa's house. So she actually embraced them and let his OT and speech occur. And so she knew the gap still was not closing. And 2 years later, in the newspaper, she was like, oh, Nicole, did you ever hear about hippotherapy? And did you know about children's TheraPlay up in Carmel? And I was like, no. And why she brought it up is I grew up with horses, and so did she. So we always talked about equine and how they're amazing creatures. And I knew of hippotherapy, but didn't realize we had one locally. And so I proceeded to call children's TheraPlay because, of course, one of the big elephants in the room was non-speaking. And then another elephant in the closet was OT, where he absolutely despises anything fine motor. And so I ended up calling, and they were like, well, there's a 4-month wait. And what therapies do you want? And I said, well, we would definitely like back-to-back speech and OT.
Mm-hmm.
So thank gosh, it was only 4 months and not 2 years, but made it here. And he absolutely hated the horses. Did really well in the classrooms with OT and speech. Again, attention was what, like 30 seconds? Like
if that, it was maybe around that.
Yeah. And because I grew up in a barn, I decided during my time for my therapy to actually volunteer in the barn. And so I got to clean the stalls. And I know that sounds crazy, but once a week is better than every day.
True.
multiple years. So I got to actually meet the barn crew. And I always felt bad for Karina because she would actually walk out to the barn after speech session to like update me. And again, I am a speech therapist in writing on paperwork, but not in this. And I'm definitely not an AAC user. So I knew enough because I graduated from my college in 2006, where Toby Dynavox and Boardmaker was pretty much the only language I knew. So I vaguely remember her talking about AAC. Okay, that's fine. Go ahead. And probably talking about LAMP, but it did not register, especially if I had a pitchfork in my hand and poop holding it to dump it.
Totally.
But you know, sadly, Thad, knowing, you know, as clinicians, we all know I work in healthcare, billing and everything. Thad was not getting on the horse. So she's trying to bridge his voice. And all of a sudden she came up to me and said, okay, scratch LAMP, we're going to try touch chat. And I'm like, okay, whatever, you know, again, foreign language, not getting it. I'm worried we're going to get discharged because we're having those conversations with his wonderful OT, Joanna. And at that time, speech was not in the rotation. That you guys weren't in the rotation to what?
Horse. I don't know.
Was it January 2023?
Yeah, fall maybe 20. I don't know. It was probably about a year and a half of the speech program until we were consistently in rotation for equine.
Yeah. So they were just sub in. So thankfully, the day that she had breakthrough with that on touch chat, I walked in from the barn to change. She goes, hurry up and change. I have exciting news. And we went back to a classroom, and she walked me through it and said, I found his voice. And while we're in there, we're talking about it. And then that's when she told me they were going into the rotation, because I was like, okay, it sounds like Thad's going to be discharged because he's not getting on the horse. And she was already starting to think of outpatient places to send him so we didn't lose the voice. So where it gets tough, because remember that moment. So as we're celebrating his voice and realizing he's going to have to get discharged from OT and speech, we walk out and the village is celebrating him because he actually rode Nemo, who's back here, the smallest pony. But they all knew he was so close to being discharged that they were like shouting when we walked out. So here we found his voice, and then he's not going to get discharged. So for like a month, we're all like, keep getting on. Yeah. And so it was just amazing. And now he's the kid who's on the horse asking to go fast. He wants to trot. So, but again, I just always think of, you know, because I wasn't inside to watch her do the assessment. And all I can imagine is like, I love Harry Potter. She knows I love Harry Potter, and I don't own them. J.K. Rowling's does. But I just think for anybody that works like you guys with AAC, it's like the sorting hat. You try to find the voice, you know?
Yeah.
And, like there's Gryffindor, you know, Hufflepuff. I'm Hufflepuff. But you know she is too. But you know, like you have like the house of touch chat, you have the house of lamp, you have the house of Perliquo to go, and then you have like eye gaze. You know, like his sorting hat, like he could have been like a Neville who was not. We all wondered, why was he in Gryffindor? Why was he in Gryffindor? You know, where she could have the sorting hat. She could have put him in lamp, but instead she listened to his voice and put him in touch chat, and he's going to flourish in there. But again, if it was lamp, because lamp's around here a lot, like most of his friends are on lamp. I think eventually he would have blossomed, but the fact that he has just taken off. So the little boy that never had like 30 seconds attention span at that, now not wanting to get on the horse, is now the kid that is asking to go fast every time
and playing and playing and playing with everyone who comes in and greeting people,
Yes.
blowing mom kisses through the window.
Oh yes,
It's
blowing the staff kisses too.
Aww.
So, but yeah, that's his journey here. And again, it's his village. And for me as a mom, and knowing as a clinician, I need to be the liaison for the rest of his village, like his school preschool, you know, school district preschool. And he's also in ABA preschool. And he has, I think, 7 speech therapists behind him right now.
Wow.
That I need to make sure to bridge that for him. And they are all like jumping on the foundation she's created to continue helping him become an independent communicator. I can take more Harry Potter anytime you want.
I love that. Yeah, I love that metaphor. Chris is really going to love that.
It's going to be transferring into a independent communicator. So, but yes. But anyway, I hope that helped.
Yes, no, it was amazing to hear. And I feel like what a synchronous day when, you know, we found and landed on a AAC system that we were seeing success with, and he decided that he was going to, you know, push forward and get more comfortable getting on the horse. I feel like, yeah, I'm sure that was in some ways a stressful journey, figuring out like, is he going to take off? Like, what do we do? How do we support him? And I think a lot of families feel that there's so many unknowns, and you know, as clinicians who do this work, we kind of understand, you know, I believe that all children, when given access to the right supports, can learn how to communicate. And it's never a question in my mind when I meet a child whether or not I'll be able to help support that communication. But I'm sure as a parent, it's like, is this going to work for my child? Like, is my child actually going to be able to do this? And it sounds like you kind of had those fears, and I'm sure there was like this wave of relief that came over you on that day. Like, oh my goodness, thank goodness that like things are falling into place finally.
And I think a lot of it is, like I said, it's a great community that they've established here. They've changed this building a little bit. That before, I've heard parents that have been here for quite a few years, before they made the new building, that they didn't have a weight room really for parents to get to know each other as well. And so, like I said, it's a celebration. And I'm telling you, like listening to the parents, another little girl just got into speech. It's like the golden ticket. It's like, we got her. You know, I know that sounds, but everybody, you know, and if they can't get into Karina, the parents are like, where should I look? What could I do to get my child? Because it's a game changer, you know, like.
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback off of Nicole's story, and her son is just really thinking of the speech therapists and the within our community as well. And it's really great in Indianapolis. We have a really great community of speech therapists. So I knew that treatment tools, it's never a one size fits all. It's either you have so many tools in your toolbox to support kids, and some kids really thrive off of, horses as a treatment tool. And some kids it's, not now, maybe later. And some kids are like, no, I just really don't like horses. And that's okay. It's just finding that fit. And so the nice thing is I knew that Nicole and Dad would be in good hands, if this wasn't the right fit, because there is a good network within our community here, and the village extends beyond our walls, and we're really blessed for that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit, Karina, about thinking to even fuse these two things together. I feel like it's so interesting, and I was excited to kind of have you guys on the podcast because I was like, yes, like, especially cool that you have fashioned like an adaptive stand for the AAC device on the horse. I feel like I need a picture of that and share it in our Facebook group or something. Yeah. But talk to me a little bit about that. Because many people would say, I literally just got off a call actually right before this interview where I was working with a BCBA, and the BCBA was like, how do you approach people who kind of like take the device and then put it aside during the sessions? And I was like, tell me more. And it's like, well, the APE teacher always just like takes, this child's device and just puts it to the side for the entire session. And I feel like, one might think like, yes, when a child gets on top of a horse, let's put the device to the side. Right. And it sounds like, that was kind of the initial stages of what happened when you started doing this work. And obviously you educated, the team on the fact that this is a child, an extension of their body, their being, right? It's their voice. So how did you kind of fuse that? What kinds of roadblocks did you run into? Like, what was that whole process like for you?
Yeah. So it's been really nice having the foundation of TheraPlay that they've been utilizing horses for 20 years. And so with the PTs and OTs, they did a really great job with helping me learn the actual, it sounds silly, but like the movement of the horse. Mm-hmm. Because I originally thought like one size fits all. It's a horse and the horse moves and you sit on the horse. But I realized that depending on the size, depending on the structure, depending on the personality, a child is going to get different sensory input from it. So, and they're also going to get a different experience on the horse as well. So we work with AHA, which is the American Hippotherapy Association. So I was able to get some really great training through them through level 1 and level 2. So that was also super helpful that our clinic has a good connection with them. So they have speech therapy as part of that level 1 and level 2 training. So that was really great to have that connection. And so I guess the hardest part for me was I was starting to understand that horse movement physiologically supports a child's system. Metaphorically, whether in sensory and all of these different pieces. But I was trying to figure out how can I more easily input language and communication, whether it's verbal or through a talker. How can I integrate all of this with the horse? And so the first thing, it was funny. I was known as the stop-start therapist because we would just stop, go. And like the horses would stop and then the child would go, and then we'd stop and then we go. But then I was starting to be able to figure out, okay, what more language? There's more language that we can do than just stop and go. And so it really pushed me as a clinician. Okay, we're thinking of speed. We're thinking of location. They're, are they going to sit forward? Are they going to sit backwards? Are they going to sit sideways? Are they, we have rings that can go on poles. And so, okay, prepositions on and off. And then we got a mailbox in our arena. And I was known as the mailbox queen because for the longest time I was working on in and out. So all these different things. And now it's been really great just working with the team. We're consistently getting more and more things into our arena, like we're getting a bridge. One of our volunteers is building us a bridge for the horses to go over. And we're starting to integrate social situations. So kids that they'll pass each other on the horses. And so we're working on saying, hey, how are you? Or working on that, calling attention across a location, because you're still within the arena, but you can be like, hey, and like, and the other kid will kind of like turn around. And it's just really cool to have those engagements there. So it's been, we're just moving and grooving and learning and growing. And each day I feel like there's something new. So it's fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's the cool thing is like language is everywhere, right? And we can create language rich experiences no matter what we're doing. And that's, I'm sure part of the work that you do is just kind of a constant uncovering of like, oh, I never thought about this word or this situation as new situations arise.
Yeah.
And then you also do tech days too.
Oh yeah, tag days. Thank you for bringing that up. So tag days are a really special new thing that we had probably started about a year ago or so. And what they are, they're just animal assisted sessions. So every, I think 4 session, a child won't use equine movement, but we have tiny ponies as well as a service dog. And so our session will incorporate one or both of that. So it can integrate like grooming the tiny ponies. So brushing them, putting bows in their hair. We now have hair paint that they can paint the pony's hair. We have like really fun, what did you call the tinsel? Have you seen the tinsel?
No.
And we like put like little tinsel streaks in the tiny pony's hair. And then a favorite of Thad's with our service dog, he loves to play fetch with AJ, our service dog. So he'll, and AJ responds to all these different commands. So Thad's able to give the commands on his talker, and then I say verbally, and then AJ does it. So it's fun.
Oh, I love that. That's so fun. And, you know, how many of our students have dogs at home, right? Like, that's like such a great transition. Nicole, yeah, you have a dog. So it's like, what a great carryover activity.
Well, I think that's why we started practicing it, because Nicole came in one day and she's like, so that's trying to play with the dog. I'm like, perfect. AJ, where are you? So we were able to play fetch and have, Thad learn the language around that. And then you took a video, I think, if I remember correctly, of you guys practicing that same thing at home with your dog.
Yes.
So it was a fun connection.
Yes.
I love that so much. What's one thing you'd say has been like the biggest learning moment for you in the work that you've done?
Listen. Listen. Listen to the child. Listen to the mom. Listen to the dad, listen to the caregiver. I think that's the biggest thing I've learned, because the moment that I stop listening, I feel like I take away that empowerment. I take away spark. I take away joy. I take away that being bad. You know? And I've a completely different clinician since I've met Nicole and Dad and your family. And I think a lot of it has been from just listening.
Well, like one going off of that, like before she takes him back to the classroom or out in the arena, all of the clinicians do this. They do ask like, how's it going? What have you been working on? And I've told her like Dad will provide an answer to like a question, but he's not good at answering yes or no. So you might ask him like, do you want to have crackers or whatever? And he's just like, I want crackers. And so one day they worked on yes, no, but then also collaborated it, because I've been using a book all about core, I'm a geek. I want to help build his voice up. So I'm reading a book by, what's her name, Karen Donaldson? Comprehension Literacy.
Oh yeah, Comprehensive Literacy for All, Karen Erickson and David Copenhaver.
Yes, it's not a light read, but I'm trying to, again, like build his voice and help him with his pre-literacy so that he can get the core words and everything like that. So I have this book by a wonderful SLP. And so it's called All About Core, I Don't Know Her. But I love it because I'm reading it with Dad. But every week I do a different letter. And so the arena is really cool. And you're not mobile, but they have really established it with kid friendly, that like on the walls, it's the different alphabet letters and the numbers. And so she's like, what are you working on? I was like, oh, this book. And I gave her a copy and she goes, great. What letter are you on? And so I think it was A at that time. And she goes, well, we'll work on it back there too. And then while they were out in the arena, they started working on yes, no. So she would come up to a letter. Is this A? And he would say no. And then when they came up to, like, this is what she told me.
Yeah.
And then when they got to A, is this A? And he had to think about it. And then he said yes. So like, that's where she listens, because she's trying to build on what we're working on at home. And also the rest of his village at the school, at his ABA. And yes, so we are very blessed that she listens. And that's amazing that she does. That's why, again, everybody feels like they got the golden ticket when they get her.
We're now in Willy Wonka, and if you get to work with Karina, you got the golden ticket. Fun fact, actually, Becca Eisenberg has been on our podcast. Okay. So shout out to Becca.
Really, as a parent, and you want to actually help model with your kid, because I have my own device, and
which is amazing.
And the reason I have my own device is when that actually started clicking, we were waiting on insurance. And we know how much insurance can be a lovely thing and can be something that we just are like, okay, we're going to go around it. And so she actually looked at Easter seals and said they have a Lindian library. And so when I got on there, it was an iPad. And I was like, well, we'll just get an iPad. And then I downloaded Touch Chat. And then I learned, what is it? The drop.
Oh, the AirDrop.
The AirDrop. See, I'm not a tech person. And now I have to live in tech. So I listen to you guys like you have no idea. And I'm like writing down notes. And I'm like, oh, crap, something else I need to learn. But anyway, so I had that. And then we ended up getting the device. But I will tell you, I am an SLP. I am not savvy with this. So when I'm reading to him, I model it for him first. And I know you have talked about, sometimes they're not ready for full sentences, but I'm like, at least I can model where it is and then have him hand over hand. And Thad, he's really like, he's unsure half the time. He'll grab my hand like under here and
he'll guide.
He'll guide.
So it's kind of like his hand on your. No, it's his hand under your hand.
No, it's on top. Like he'll grab my hand, and then I don't know how you would explain that. And then he goes for it. It's almost like it's reassuring that I'm there, but most of the time he's hovering right by the word. He does that for you. He does it for me.
Yeah, he'll grab. What he'll do sometime is he's sometimes really scared of getting things
wrong. He doesn't like the word no.
That, and I think he's also kind of hesitant of like, am I doing this right? Is this the right word? Can I say this word? And really just building his empowering him to, you can tell me whatever you want. You can tell me this word. It's okay. If you get it wrong, I'm here to help you. It's not but sometimes he will, for that assurance, he'll grab my hand and he'll guide my hand. And then he makes me he'll push down on my finger. So I'm selecting that icon. So, and then, cause I think it's like a reassurance for him. Yeah.
But anyway, so I do that, but it kind of built from over Christmas. I was doing an advent calendar with him, and my mom, who's a retired educator, said, it's like March Madness. It's over. I cannot deal with this. So she actually created like a
So
tote.
cool.
Yeah. Like a tote, like where you put your jewelry in, but she has like A through Z and like the shapes. And then another one she did of the numbers. And she goes, now figure out what you're going to do with it. But I need you to record this every, day. So I can see him do something with his AAC device. And I'm telling you, like, my parents are amazing because they've now added touch chat to their iPads. And because my nephews, I share with her, they have wanted him to talk to them forever. And so it was on Mother's Day last year. He's now on touch chat 60, but he was on touch chat 25. And when my nephew Theo came in, Thad said hi, and Theo was like, he talked to me.
Oh,
He talked to me. And then he started stemming on pet my dogs. And again, listening to your podcast, like, I didn't know by then I hadn't been listening to your podcast. She turned me on around like August, but he got a kick out of it. Like, pet my dogs, pet my dogs, pet my dogs, pet my dogs, and if it wasn't that, it was rhinoceros. But again, listening to you guys, listening to her, soaking in everything I can to be a empowering parent and advocating for him. I was like, oh, modeling. Okay. Well, we have the extra iPad. And so like when we get together with my nephews, it's once in the blue moon. And my mom's like, well, I understand this modeling thing, but we don't see you. So they ended up downloading it, came to my house, airdropped. I was very impressive to my mom at that moment.
I knew how to airdrop.
I'm trying to do this, and I'm airdropping, but they now have been practicing, and we're actually going on family vacation in a week. And so Orlando, you're going to see like 4 kids with their iPads and talkers, talking up a storm. But it's just, again, it's things that you guys have said on the podcast, what she's talked about, reading all these books that you guys recommend. And Kelly Coleman, I'm going to get your book.
Hey, Kelly would be happy to hear that.
But, it's just, how can because at this point, I am his voice, typical voice, but I want it to transition to him, And we have a amazing village here at the schools, and then the family are just buying into it because it's a huge game changer. And I'm going to cry again, or I'm going to start crying, but it is like, you've seen it, you guys have seen it, but like, we still need to like get it out there in the community. And like using the core boards, we went to Great Wolf Lodge. Can't take the device in the water, but we'll make a core board and laminate it. And that's what we did.
That's what we did. Yeah, we had his homepage on one, and then on the back of it was a Great Wolf Lodge, and it was laminated so he could have that in the water. And then the dry area, he had his actual talker.
Yes.
But that was so fun to make with you, Nicole.
Yes.
So yeah, it's fun thinking outside the box.
Yeah. And it was fun letting the community that we didn't know see him, because did not expect him to go down every single slide. Like, he ended up being the slide king. Like, I heard that Jordan Zimmerman likes slides. I'm like, I got a little buddy for you.
Yes, Jordan, we saw at ATAA going down the huge water slide. So correct.
Yes. So, and he looked different. We had a special, swimsuit on him because it's called a swim pal. So it kind of helps him buoy, because he's the kid that would go into water and happily drown as he's going down, so it buoys him. And then he has we did headphones. There's no waterproof headphones, but we designated one for him. And then he had the scoreboard, but it was nice. Like, moms would just kind of smile, like big smiles, that it was just like, yes, he's communicating. He's telling me, go slide, go, and he started flipping it, so it, to me, like, even, I guess as a parent, don't be afraid to take them out with their voices, which is their wand. Remember, they're wizards and they're witches, and that is their wand. A wizard and a witch is not as magical without their wand. So please don't be scared to model for your kids. It's scary. And that's where I'm going to try to own it and try to help parents in my neck of the woods to model. Because the saddest thing I hear is on your podcast and other places, like, it's just for school. No, it's not just for school.
You know, it sounds like you guys have really created a culture around AAC and really integrated into the community. And I feel like showing people something as simple as like, we can help students with disabilities learn how to communicate using technology on a horse, and in a pool or in a lake or, you know, wherever, you know, how powerful is that? And Nicole, to kind of reiterate what you just shared, being the mom who goes and is reading the books, listening to the podcast, showing up places with her, you know, laminated core board for swim time and modeling language. I mean, that does really create a culture around AAC. It helps educate people in ways that you don't even realize it is happening. And over time, you know, we just start to create a world where, you know, we accept all different modalities of communication and we're including kids, you know, and adults with disabilities. And it sounds like you guys have just did an amazing job at cultivating that in your little neck of the woods.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Of course. So is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you guys still feel like is left to share?
Well, I just want to brag on Nicole a little bit here.
Yes, go. Let's do it. This is the Love Fest.
That's to show the importance of finding community. It is the neatest thing when we're in the arena and there's windows so you can see into the waiting room, because the parents can see in from the waiting room and we can see into the waiting room. And you see a new parent come in and they have that new parent look on their face. They're a little unsure. They're a little scared. They're a little bit wary. And then here comes Nicole, and she just like wraps them in, and she has this huge smile on. And you just see over time that fear and that look of like deer in the headlights starts becoming excited and happy and heard and understood. And it's just so neat to see parents helping parents, parents loving parents, parents creating. Yeah, it's just amazing. And now, like, there's kiddos that are getting together outside of TheraPlay and they're having play dates with their talkers. Thank you, Nicole. And it's really, really neat to see.
And by the way, I'm not in the barn anymore because one of the most amazing moments was, again, Thad only had 30-second attention, right? I left the barn in the summertime because Karina said he was looking for you. He was looking for me through the window. And, you know, that was the moment that I was like, okay, I got to take my therapy away. It's been lovely smelling the barn right now. But I needed to now step into the mom room and be there for him. And it's like, again, a great village out in the barn. But then when I fully embraced the village indoors, I got to know more parents. I got to talk with them. I mean, we don't even talk always AAC. My son has SMOs, orthotics, and we talk about shoes. What shoes work for what orthotics? Besides Billy's. Billy's are great, but you know, it's just like, oh, did you hear about Stride Rights? So I'm going to plug those because for actual tennis shoes, they have extra wide. That doesn't need those, but some of our friends do. But he has the wide, and they work. And we still have our Billy's, but it's just nice to have a nice pair of tennis shoes as well that actually light up and have fun, that he can be like a normal little kid. So yes, we all like, and it's a small world, and I'm sure you guys have it where you're from, but parents talk. We know what school districts people want to move to, and we know school districts families don't want to live in, and they shop. So anyway, we're in a good district. But it's just it's one of those, and we talk about different therapies. Like there's going to be on the west side in Indianapolis opening up aquatic center. Well, my son loves to swim, and with PT. Bust the ceilings, people. Bust the ceilings. We need AAC there. He's not leaving here. But floorboards go in the water, and but yes.
You get flotation devices.
Yes.
I mean, you guys are really like creative with what I've seen, what you do with horses. So I can't imagine.
Oh, she put an AAC device on a bike today.
Oh yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
Wow. I love it. You guys, this has been so fun. And there's obviously a lot of love between the two of you. And I feel like not only have you guys shared about your own individual journeys and experiences, but I feel like one of the most beautiful things is seeing this kind of therapist parent connection. And you guys do a beautiful job of showcasing what a special relationship that can be. And I'm excited to share this podcast and to share your story, to inspire others that they can do something similar. I think that's what's so cool is, this podcast has created this amazing community of parents and professionals and educators. And, we get emails like yours all the time. And it's just really cool for us to be able to kind of showcase this and hopefully inspire others to start doing this in their neck of the woods, to start creating community in addition to kind of the targets that we have for our kids and access to the AAC. You guys are doing a beautiful example of expanding well beyond that and creating real connection and community. And that's just really beautiful.
You picked the wrong horse.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And and thank you so much for letting us share our story.
And of course.
To share.
Yeah. Where, if people are trying to get in touch with you guys, how can they do that?
You can go and you can Google www.childrenstherapplay.org and you can find information regarding what we do here. And then my email is kcarter@childrenstherapplay.org.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
I will be at Indiana AAC Summit. I'm not presenting, but I'll be there. And I like to stay kind of private right now with Dad until he is able to voice for himself that he wants to have his story public. We'll be waiting for that. But I also, for a great program for families, there's ARC of Indiana. They are big advocates and they are a great resource that way. There is a parent, TheraPlay. There is a kind of a Facebook group for parents, but I'm not a moderator, so it's not as active. So
we can.
Sorry.
If you share those resources with me, we can definitely add those to the show notes for people. And I'm just really excited to share this interview. And thank you guys again so much for taking the time to come on today.
Sure. Thank you again.
Thank you.
For Talking with Tech, I'm Rachel Madel, joined today by Karina Carter and Nicole Young. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.